What's good, YouTube, and welcome to the house. Move over, Artifact Scythe. Mystic Mine has become once again the most controversial card in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! This used to get hard focused in conversations, people wanting it banned, and it did get banned even over in the OCG, which still gets pointed at. But if you've been watching the channel for some time, you know I'm very biased against this card, so I'm going to remove that bias in this conversation until the end when I give my own takes and go at both sides. So a lot of people are saying, well, your combo deck that has 5 disruptions and negates and all these things are very similar to play through, and then other people will point at Mystic Mine and it's like, all that power's in one card. Yeah, but you had to get through the disruptions to even throw this down. And to be fair to Mystic Mine, it does require something of your opponent to have, which is a monster. So let's read this. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, your opponent cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack. If you control more monsters than your opponent does, you cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack. So that's an attempted flip back restriction on this card, that you can't just summon monsters and do things. And thanks to link summoning, if you commit anything, your opponent's likely to get to that same number of monsters. So then the upkeep becomes, once per turn during the end phase, if both players control the same number of monsters, destroy this card, which could be 0, it could be 1 each. So the whole goal is to try to clear the Mystic Mine. Now, I will say that Mystic Mine does something no other card does, which is end up in this game state of turn pass, which we will review in a feature match, of just like 20 turns of game slowdown. No other card in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now does that. Not even Skill Drain, with Eldritch being able to recur as a 3500 beat stick, where usually you can get 3000 out of your extra deck, so the Eldritch decks use that. But when we look at Mystic Mine and its history of the game, the first thing that was feared is Mystic Mine Burn, which people started to cheer for with Jeff Leonard, who is actually quoted on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikia here. I do think that with Mine Burn, it's a thing of the past mostly because people will usually have some kind of out for this, and it's not as consistent. But where Mystic Mine started to rear its head in the meta is earlier than you might recall, which is True King Dinosaurs, with my buddy Scott Page, as well as Silverman, using it in the Team YCS, and it got them a lot of freaking wins. Dinosaurs is one of the best decks at using all of its resources to force a board, and when nothing is left, that Mystic Mine was there for them in order to let them get resources back. And Dinosaurs also one of the best absolute decks at using just a few resources to go for games. So after burning your opponent's resources on your own stuff and then locking them down, it would come back and get through there. But Sky Strikers have made this a lot more controversial because they have not only draw power, but the first place list that won used so many cards to tutor it out that we haven't seen in a deck like this before, like Demise of the Land, as well as Metaverse. And I've got to say, in a field very heavy with Anti-Spell Fragrance, this was still an amazing meta call and had to have consistency going forth. And the man's Poe, he didn't really need to like hold the goo, because it was a great format call. Let's not take anything away from him. He really looked at the format, settled on this, found that a lot of people weren't playing outs, and that is another argument for Mystic Mine. Just play the out 5-head, but that does become draw the out, because a common strategy is you put the Mystic Mine up and you hope they don't play the out, and you try to deck them out if you're in a position to do so. The other thing with Mystic Mine in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! That wasn't there for Dinosaurs is this card, Pot of Prosperity, which allows you to look up to 6 cards through your deck for a certain card and ups the consistency of pretty much any deck that is allowed to play this. This card, it goes further beyond in reach than anything before. It's why it's a $100 card currently at the time of recording this video. So I want to read the excerpt that really got everybody just going, and we're gonna begin from here in the feature match, where we have Sing set a card to his back row. Actually, let's begin a little more. Sing ended his turn with no further play. Zhang activated, and I'm sorry if I'm murdering your name, Poe, activated Mystic Mine and set 2 cards to his back row. Sing drew and activated Ritual Sanctuary. He used the effect to discard Medianus Drytron and added Ben 10 from his deck to his hand. He used the effect of Drytron to return it to his hand and set a card to the back row before passing. Zhang set a card. Sing drew and passed. Zhang passed. Sing used an effect of Ritual Sanctuary to discard Mediana's Drytron again and add Cyber Angel Natasha. He returned Mediana's Drytron to his hand and set a card to his back row. Zhang drew and passed. Sing used his Sanctuary effect to add Drytron Mediana's Draconids to his hand and returned Mediana's Drytron to his hand. He discarded 2 cards in the end phase because he had 8 cards. This is a top 4 YCS feature match, by the way. Zhang drew and passed. Sing used Cyber Emergency to get a Drytron monster from his deck and return Mediana's Drytron from his graveyard to his hand. He discarded 2 more cards from his hand in the end phase. Zhang drew a card and passed. Sing set a card to his back row and passed. Zhang drew a card and passed. Sing drew Pot of Prosperity and discarded Mediana's Drytron. Zhang discarded a Terraforming from his 7-card hand in the end phase. Sing drew a... Imagine the writers. I'm just imagining, because I've actually gone through like college level writing of trying to spice this up and make it interesting. Sing drew a card and discarded a card from his hand in the end phase. Zhang did the same. Sing drew a card and discarded Mystic Mine from his hand in the end phase. So, you know, he's playing it too. Zhang set a 5th card to his Spell and Trap Zone card and passed. Sing drew and passed, discarding a card. Zhang drew and passed, discarding cards. Sing drew a card and set a card to a back row. Zhang drew a card and passed, discarding effect Veiler to the end phase. Sing drew and discarded a card in the end phase. Zhang flipped Sky Striker Mecha Widow Anchor to negate the effect of Mu Beta Fafnir, and then used Sky Striker Maneuver Afterburners to destroy it along with the face down Forbidden Droplet. Next, he activated Sky Striker Mecha Module's multi-roll and used it to send the Mystic Mine to the graveyard, summoned Ray and attacked directly with it, and then special summoned Ace Hayate in his place. He attacked directly and sent Mobilize Engage to the graveyard with its effect. He then summoned Sky Striker Ace Kagari in main phase 2, but lost out on the effect due to Herald of Orange Light. Interaction here, right? Sing drew a card and used Alpha to special summon it by tributing Benton. He added Magic-Key Mech Musket Bato Buster to his hand with Alpha's effect. He then returned Mediona's Drytron to his from his graveyard to his hand and used Zeta's effect to special summon it by tributing Beto Buster. Zhang flipped Demise of the Land to put Mystic Mine on the field. That's where it happens again. He used Mediana's Drytron to tribute Alpha and ritual summon Cyber Angel Natasha. Next, he sent 2 monsters to the graveyard to link summon Lina the Light Charmer and use the effect of Ritual Sanctuary. He shuffled 5 spells from his graveyard into his deck and special summoned Natasha to the field. He flipped Cyber Emergency next, adding Delta. He activated Pot of Prosperity, banishing 3 cards to reveal Alpha, Mystic Mine, and another Prosperity. He added Alpha to his hand and set a Called by the Grave before ending his turn. In the end phase, Zhang flipped Widow Anchor to negate Lina and used multi-roll to set Afterburners. Zhang flipped Afterburners to destroy Lina and Ritual Sanctuary before passing his turn, and this is where all the screenshots come from, as if it already wasn't happening. Zhang drew and passed, Sing drew and passed, Zhang drew and passed, Sing drew and passed, Zhang drew a card and set a card to the back row. Sing drew and passed, Zhang drew and passed, Sing drew and passed, Zhang drew and passed, Sing drew and passed, Zhang sent a face down Trap Trick to the graveyard with multi-roll, set a new card from his hand. Sing drew a card and passed, discarding Forbidden Droplet in the end phase. Zhang drew and passed, Sing drew and passed, 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 Zhang drew and passed, Sing drew and passed with 3 cards left in his deck. He conceded, destined to run out of cards in his deck before Zhang. So this is why when the deck out win is the con in the article, a lot of people are saying play the out, do the thing, have the deck that can take it, and I think that is a fair argument that you should be citing it, and in this specific instance, you should be able to get to it. But the thing is, he also had a backup Mystic Mine ready. Then a lot of people are deflecting and saying, well, it didn't win him the finals, D-Barrier did another turn along, lingering Floodgate like Scythe that's getting pointed a lot in this format, and to that I say, Floodgates in general. The disdain there is it's similar to firewall spam / zoning in fighting games, where it doesn't let you click the buttons, and as you inch in, you've got to basically have the exact right thing at the right time to stop the zoning. Otherwise, it just goes all the way back to the other side of the screen, and you're back at it again as the clock whittles down. It's very similar to the fighting game community and that mechanic. Floodgating is a singular card that doesn't allow the opponent to play. Now, are all floodgates bad? Absolutely not. I think there's a huge balance to floodgates versus combo decks. I don't blindly dislike floodgates, but a lot that are on the list get pointed to when we have Mystic Mine. Let's read Kaiser Coliseum. If there is one or more monster on the field of the controller of this card, his/her opponent cannot place a monster on the field if his/her number of monsters would exceed the number of monsters that are on the field of this card's controller. The cards that are already on the field before this card's activation are unaffected by effects. Kaiser Coliseum is banned, and it's essentially a worse Mystic Mine that, while counting the number of monsters, then restricts summoning, which is where a lot of floodgates that are on the list that are compared to mine, also like Vanity's Emptiness, come into play. Neither player can special summon monsters. So mine takes into account the more monsters that are on the field, the more the other player is allowed to start doing their thing if they choose to, but it locks down what is happening in a way not as even restrictive as Mystic Mine really has become. Max C is also pointed to because it's at 3 in the OCG, where mine is at 3 over here, and it can really stop play. It's like if you cannot game right here, but that's the difference, right? You are still allowed to take the Max C challenge. You are still allowed to attempt to go for game, and Master Duel is showing a lot of that argument as well. I personally think Maxi is an at 3 or 0 card. I prefer at 0, giving my personal take. But the draw the out 5 head kind of thing, because it goes from play the out to draw the out, still puts the mine player in a position to draw backup cards. You saw in that feature match that even though Mystic Mine was taken off the field, a backup Mystic Mine was ready. And if you don't draw the out in time just because you play the out, it doesn't mean that a backup one isn't lurking due to how the strategy plays. That is facts, not even my own personal take. It was presented in front of you. So I do think, giving now my personal take, that Mystic Mine does something that no other card in the entire game can do in terms of lockdown, restriction, and power elements. Certain decks do need it to have the power punch in the format, but I think Mystic Mine as a card itself earned its place on the OCG ban list and certainly does deserve it. There will be many defenders in the comment section, and that's perfectly fine. People get heated over this debate, and that's part of the spotlight. Now to the your 6 interruption, break my board stuff. I don't like break my board formats as a whole. I like it when it's an option. Looking at Branded Despia right now being in a format and all the engine dot decks, we are starting to have a lot of build to board things happen, but we're also in a format that is very responsive and back and forth and able to bust through boards and then have further reactions and responses past that. There truly is a better grind game in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now than there has been in a long time, but there's a lot of turn-long lingering floodgates and true floodgates mixed in to these power decks that are taking them to the next level that make play even harder to do. You saw Mystic Mine, and I think over half of the top decks from this last YCS, if I'm not mistaken. It should be right around there of half the decks, but I do think that the card is becoming a bit much for Yu-Gi-Oh! Personally. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Try to avoid personal insults over this one. It's more a spotlight of exactly what happened this weekend and then my take from it, but a lot of people get heated on this one, and I guess for good reason if your deck needs its legs to stand on in the mines. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the conversation at least, and yeah, let me know what you think about it.